One of the darkest chapters in Norwegian history is the Norwegian state's treatment of the national minorities. Jews have been dogged and deported by their compatriots, and Sami, Kven, Forest Finns and Tatars and the Romani people have been forced to forget and to deny their language and culture. More than 1/3 of the children were sent to mission schools and orphanages to be Norwegianized. From the middle of the 19th century until the post-war period, the policy of Norwegianization was strong. This lasted right into the 1960s. The Sami culture did not exist, and the Sami were to fully become part of the Norwegian population. No other group in Norway was so mistreated and subjected to forced sterilization, electroshock and lobotomy in the noble purpose of racial hygiene until 1970. Right up until the 1950s, Sami ethnicity was classified in public censuses in the same category as feeble-minded and insane. Provost Andreas Jolm describes in 1886 how mission and Norwegianization. The Lapp people are children's people in more than one respect. As a people, they stand in the child's immediate, naive, undeveloped position, and it is one of the purposes of Norwegianization as a people to bring them up to the maturity of a man, if this is then possible. This is a big and lasting goal to work towards. The Sami were subjected to a heavy-handed Norwegianization policy. Missionaries almost managed to break Sami culture, and in school all the children had to learn Norwegian. From 1848, the Sami language was to be replaced by Norwegian. The Sami were oppressed, and in 1902 it was decided that they were not allowed to buy land from the state unless they could speak Norwegian and used Norwegian normally. The land property even had to have a Norwegian name. Only in 1965 were these rules removed. Why did this happen? How could the Norwegian state be so oppressive towards the Sami, and what was the purpose of that? In the 1860s, many Finns moved up to the border with Finnmark and Nord-Troms. Finland had previously been in a union with Russia, and for that reason Finns, or also called Kvens, were not to be trusted as border residents. The bulk of the population in the north consisted of the Sami. The Sami had for several generations lived and harvested across borders. They also had strong family ties that crossed borders. Because of this, the Sami were also not to be trusted. For Norway, it became important that the border areas were inhabited by reliable inhabitants. They strove to get Norwegian people up to the borders. Darwin's famous research theory, survival of the fittest, was transferred directly to society. Social Darwinism spread around Europe and eventually reached Norway. This affected the Sami, who are a minority in society. Their only chance of survival was Norwegianization. Norsification was supposed to give the Sami a better quality of life. They were to speak Norwegian, get a Norwegian way of life, change their customs and place of residence, in other words, completely get rid of the Sami culture. The consequences of the Norwegianization policy in Norway were that many Sami today do not know Sami and have a lack of knowledge about their culture. This is one of the reasons why Sami culture is not widespread in Norway, and Norwegians know too little about Sami culture. With this prehistory as a backdrop for the Sami meeting in Trondheim 1917, the Norwegian Sami had begun to organize themselves nationally. Elsa Laula Renberg was a reindeer owner in the Brøskanken Mountains south of Mosjøen. She was the initiator of the meeting. The picture was probably taken in 1916, presumably as part of the marketing of the meeting. The Sami meeting in 1917 was the first Sami national meeting. The meeting was attended by Sami from both Norway and Sweden. The meeting was held in the Methodist Church in Trondheim from 6 to February 9, 1917. The date of the beginning of this meeting is the basis for the Sami's National Day. The meeting gathered approximate 150 participants, most of whom were Southern Sami from Nordland, Trondelag and Hedmark. Many topics were taken up, ranging from e.g. tuberculosis among the Sami, the Norwegianization policy and the new reindeer husbandry law, which influenced the final design of the law in 1919. The other main issue at the meeting was the demand for a separate Sami school, and that the children had to be taught in and in Sami. After the Second World War, the view of linguistic and ethnic minorities began to change, and agreements under international law were concluded which had an impact on Norway. In 1948 there were a number of proposals to adapt the school provision for Sami children, and in 1956 a committee was set up to investigate Sami issues. They believed that it was obvious that mistakes had been made, including in the school policy. In 1967, teaching in Sami became a right, and in the same year a Sami upper secondary school, gymnasium, was established. Despite this, all Sami languages are more or less threatened with extinction, and some are extinct or almost extinct. After 1970 came a shift, but it began when the right to teaching in the Sami language was established in 1967. Much of the change has been linked to the Alta struggle around 1980. It was finally understood that the Samis' rights to land, air and water had to be codified, and the battle for Alta is a historical division where Norwegians and Sami stood together for the existence of a minority. There was a Sami revitalization. Not only did you get the Sami parliament, there was a new Sami pride and identity. It is also shown in how many more people today see themselves as Sami. In 1997, King Harald apologized to the Sami people for the abuses inflicted on them by Norwegian society. But to this day, there is a lot of everyday racism against the Sami that needs to be fought. Sami Parliament President Eli Keskitalo stated in August 2016 that the Sami Parliament Council wants a public truth and reconciliation process similar to what has been carried out in Canada and Australia together with the indigenous groups there. There is still a way to go.